So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out here, in case somebody actually stumbles upon this and listens and doesn't want to be spoiled. Here is a summary in the most succinct way possible. I think the ninth generation of games are some of the best Pokemon games ever made, and yeah, I think I don't think that's a bad opinion. Welcome back to the Untitled podcast. It's currently 2024. There's nuclear fallout. Kanye West is now I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. How are you, sir?
It's 2024 and everyone's been forced inside. Luckily for us, I'm an expert in that.
Truer words have not been said, at least on my end as well. Today I wanted to talk about Pokemon. Why did I want to talk about Pokemon? Because Scarlet and Violet have dropped, and I felt like it would be a good time to just sort of hop on the bandwagon of talking about the newest Pokemon game, but not that game, but just, Pokemon in general, what it means to us, what Pokemon we like, sort of what drew us to the franchise in the first place, what potentially is taking us away from the franchise, what we would like to see. And then maybe we might touch on, Scarlet and Violet themselves towards the end or the later half of the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and drop the bomb. I have procured Scarlet,
Oh my
and I have
god.
played it. I have played it quite a bit, so I do have quite a bit to say about it. Again, I will drop those juicy tidbits at the later end of the portion. But yeah, I think starting off, I guess we should first just talk about what does Pokemon mean to us. I think we're both early 2000s kids. Me being a later 90s kid as well. And so I'll get your opinion first. Sort of what drew you to Pokemon? When did you start with it? What did you like about it back then? Go ahead.
I think, like with most people, it's definitely from TV anime. But I think I got started around, I want to, the very beginning, I would say, the Indigo League. But didn't not much after that. Like, no, not much in the games, not much in card collecting. Just like 99% did a TV show.
Interesting. So it was. So at what point, I guess, did it maybe transition to some of the other things, or did it never really transition to the other things and was predominantly just the anime?
Still there, man?
Oop, did I die?
Oh,
Did I kill it? Oh no, I killed it.
he's gone.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm back now. I'm sorry. So I forgot I didn't confirm that my Ethernet was plugged in, so it was on Wi-Fi, and it was doing something slightly funky. So I was like, oh, let me make sure that's changed, and then yeah, the Ethernet was not plugged in all the way. So yeah, um,
Nice.
fun. But yes, I don't know if you heard my question, but I was asking, so with getting into the anime, did you ever really transition into the series as a whole after that, or did it sort of just stay within the confines of the anime?
Probably just 99% anime. Like I did
And
see the game around at school and whatever when friends would bring their consoles or DSs, I mean, but I didn't really get into the games until I don't think I even really got into the games. My brother got X, I want to say, on the 3DS, but not much
gotcha.
exposure to that. I did do emulation, not emulation, with Emerald, Fire Red, back when you could play GBA games on your phone on Android in like 2013, 2014.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I remember that. Did I do that? Gosh, it's been so long since I've been in high school. I did play on like I think it was an iPod actually. I think I jailbroke an iPod. But it's my lips tingle a little bit saying jailbroke in 2022. I don't even know if that's still the term for hacking your mobile devices anymore. But yeah, I was playing gosh, was it Fire Red on the emulator? Which I own the cartridge. This was just so I didn't lug my handheld around. But interesting. So you were an anime only guy. When did you stop watching the anime, or like, are you still sort of watching it sporadically?
Mm, The only thing I remember seeing, I want to say, was the black and white movies when they were first releasing. I don't remember anything that came after that. Like that was with the dragon girl, right? The
Dragon
the
Girl.
side companion. What's your name?
Oh yes, Iris. Yes.
Yeah, she was in black and white, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, then that's the one I remember like watching on Cartoon Network premiere. But after
Wait.
that, I
So
haven't kept up with it.
wait. So was that the last one, or is that actually the one you saw the most outside of Indigo League, and you didn't see anything in between
No, I saw
those?
everything in between.
Okay. Gotcha.
But
So black and white was the last, and really it stopped with the movies, not
yeah,
necessarily the
the,
TV series.
yeah, that's like the last. Well, I include both TV series and movies. That's the last content that I like paid attention to or followed, and
Gotcha.
after that, I kind of dropped it.
I gotcha. Which I would drop Pokemon after the black and white series as well. It was uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It was definitely affected by tragedy. I think it was a natural disaster that caused issues that caused them to change the storylines and caused them to halt production and stuff like that. I could be wrong, but I know that production was very troubled by outside means, and black and white was just sterile and just not fun to watch, in my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of fans of black and white, but yeah, it was a very sterile series in my opinion. Well, that's interesting. I didn't. So I'm learning things now. I thought you had played maybe a few outside of Arceus, which I know you picked up a little while ago. Or yeah, you picked up for me actually. But
I did play a little bit of X from my brother's DS, but I didn't get
gotcha. But
I didn't get to the first gym.
jeez.
It was just
Well,
so, I don't know, not interesting.
I mean, I know people share that opinion about the 3DS Pokemon. At least particularly X. Well, what generation is X and Y? I guess that's the sixth generation. Yeah, that's the sixth generation, and to a lesser degree, the seventh generation with Sun and Moon. It's polarized, mixed opinion on the Oraz games, but So let me
Well,
ask then.
I
Since
did
oh, go ahead.
I did what's it called? When I saw it was X, Y, and Z. Is Z like part of the t- series
There
title
was never a
or
Z.
just
There
the
was no
movie?
Z. That was the series where it got the Z, the TV series. That was like the final season of XY.
Okay, I did watch a lot of clips of that on YouTube. I saw the ending with Serena leaving. I was like, oh snap, and kind of snowball from there. I paid a little bit of attention to Sun and Moon when it was first releasing with the new animation and art style, but quickly dropped it after that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, before we talk about those for a second, I gotta ask you what was your favorite seasons between the ones that you've really watched, and sort of what drew you to that season in particular, or those seasons in particular?
I don't really have a favorite season. Like I don't think I would consider myself a huge fan of Pokemon in general.
Gotcha,
Like I enjoy it, but I wouldn't like go out of my way to buy merch or content or games unless it
gotcha.
was like
I got
really interesting.
gotcha.
But in series, I liked the probably nostalgia talking, but the series with Dawn and May.
Okay, so you like the advanced generation, and you like the Diamond and Pearl generation. Advanced being Ruby and Sapphire third generation, and then Diamond and Pearl. Then
I
it speaks for itself.
I do have some nostalgia for the Tracy generation.
Tracy, the whitewash Brock.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Orange Island is it's fun. I think it gets a lot of bad rap after the fact, but I enjoyed Orange Island. Orange Island is pretty good in my opinion. But that could also again be like you said, nostalgia talking. But cool. But cool. I've learned. I've learned now. So I didn't really know where you sat on the Pokemon spectrum. You sit, I guess the word is amicable. It's like it's okay. I'm not gonna, I'll consume it every once in a while, but it's not like a necessity, or I wouldn't call myself a fan.
I mean, at this
So
point, like well, I don't have cable or really watch any cartoon channels, but if it comes on, I'll probably like watch it to see what are they doing now.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, let me share my little background because I'm definitely what you would call a fanboy, and that is waxed and wane. But Pokemon, obviously was such a huge hit, and I could attribute it to the anime, but honestly, it was just everything. I was caught up in the fanaticism that was Pokemon in the early 2000s or the even the late 90s. Like the anime, the games, the card game. Hell, I had a board game, and I forget what that board game is called. I'm gonna post a picture when I upload the video of that board game, but it had like little circular pieces that you would traverse around the board. It's actually a pretty long board game if you try to play it straight. Of course, at the time that I had that board game, I did not know how to play it correctly, but it was pretty cool. But Pokemon was definitely a huge part of my life growing up. I had every Pokemon game, every Pokemon spinoff. Well, I won't say every, but if a mainline game came out, I definitely had it at that point. I think probably the one that shaped me the most in those early fanatic stages was Gold. That was kind of truly my first one because I got Yellow after the fact. So I have a very soft spot for Generation 2. Because I just played those to death. I actually never played Crystal, which I hate. I would love to get a legitimate copy of Crystal and play those. I mean, I could just emulate it, or I mean, not emulate. I could acquire it via other means. I could download it on 3DS sooner than later before that disappears. Um, but yeah, Pokemon was just a huge part of my life, and so growing up, I think obviously naturally things fall off in your life sort of around after the fifth generation. I guess, teenage years, I was like, I still like Pokemon, but that's not the cool thing. I'm gonna do other stuff. And I mean, I liked X and Y, but things start to become a blur for me around like maybe, well, hell, even the fourth generation, I don't remember as vividly. Like, I remember the fourth generation. I somewhat remember the fifth generation. Fifth generation was a little different for me because I actually focus a lot more on competitive battling rather than just the story like I used to previously. But then like if you try to ask me to remember anything from X, Y, and Sun and Moon outside of very specific scenes and set pieces, I couldn't tell you anything, and I guess that speaks to, I don't know whether that's my attention span or the magic that has faded away. Like if you ask me anything about generations 1 through 3, whether it's the mainline games, the spin-offs, all of that, like I just have such deep knowledge and actively recall those moments in my life. But starting with the fourth generation, I don't know, I guess it's the part of growing up and also not having enough time to spend just obsessively playing the same game over and over and over again. That's a similar thing with the anime. So I was actually surprised that you said you got up to the fifth gen. Because honestly, for me, I stopped around the third generation. I watched a good bit of Diamond and Pearl, and then fifth generation. I probably hinted at it earlier, but it was just awful, and I was just done at that point. I was just like, nope. Subsequently, though, I really liked the new art style and animation for X and Y, so that brought me back. And I'm always a sucker for the romance subplot. So Serena was, whatever. I actually haven't seen a lot of Sun and Moon. Maybe I'll rectify that one day, but I actually haven't watched that anime at all. And then Journeys has been a ride. I haven't seen anything yet just because I don't have immediate access to it, but I have been keeping up with that series, and it's the coronation tournament arc of the series is really fun. The Project Mew part, which was essentially focused on the secondary protagonist of the Journey series, Go, on his quest. His part of the Journey series was to capture every Pokemon, and Project Mew is like this secret group composed of like these two characters whose name I don't remember, and Gary. And essentially they're going out to capture Mew, and that looked really cool. But apparently it didn't go anywhere, and I haven't kept up with that as much as I did with Ash's part of the series. So maybe one day I'll go check that out. But all of that to say, definitely a hardcore Pokemon fanboy. And so I think seeing what the series has become now, seeing where it's at now, seeing how the feelings towards it, it kind of is sad. It's a sad feeling. My personal feelings and the general feelings. Just seeing how it feels like the Pokemon Company itself, not necessarily Game Freak or even Nintendo per se, but like the Pokemon Company International has just gotten so big that they've sort of lost focus, it seems, on providing a good product, at least with the mainline games. The spin-offs have still been fantastic in my opinion. I am a hardcore fighting game fan. I've played fighting games for years. Pokken is an amazing game. I don't care what anybody says. The new Pokemon Snap was really good. It was really, really good. I still need to finish it, but it was really good. And just over the years, the spin-offs have always sort of hit outside of the mobile stuff. And I think people like the mobile stuff. I just don't play mobile games. So I can't really say, but I did play a good bit of Go in college because I walked a lot, so why not? But yeah, all of that rambling just to say, hardcore Pokemon fanboy. I am still actively with the series. I still love the series. I still hope to see it grow and become a new thing. I think if I had to give a rating or a score for how the series have progressed, the various, I guess, different products that they've put out, the anime, at least Journeys, I know the reception has been mixed, but I think the increase in quality starting with X and Y in regards to storytelling, animation, all of those different things, and that includes Sun and Moon because I've seen bits of that series. I really think it's in a B range. I think they're really putting some good effort into it, even though there's a lot of crunch. The animators, are putting in some great work with that series and Ash's journey. And it makes you excited to watch. Like after all these years, even though I don't watch it obsessively like I did, with the first few seasons, anytime I see it floating in the news or randomly on YouTube, I see a clip or something, it just makes me interested to go back and see what's going on. Sort of like what you said, if you see it, you'll watch it. The card game, I feel like it's just outside of the what's the word for scalping? The scalping and the low stock and all of that different stuff. There's been quite a bit of power creep, but I think the TCG is as strong as ever. I don't really see people complaining outside of power creep. I think people enjoy it. Of course, there's busted decks and strategies, but I think that's any TCG. It's really hard to avoid in games like that. So I think it gets an A, in my opinion. Your friend, who is the champion winner, he might disagree with me. I don't know. But the TCG is definitely doing great things. The games, they probably get a C. But spoilers. When we talk about Scarlet, that might change for better or worse. We'll see. So yeah, I guess moving on from that sort of introduction of how we feel about the series, I think one reason I wanted to talk about this is because when we were having just a casual conversation, we were pretty much discussing like the Pokemon designs, right? Like we were discussing like and you're like, I don't really like these designs, or my favorite types are the ones with I think you said they have the red pupils or the red eyes, and they have the black hollowed out around them or something like that. It's
Yeah.
Metagross essentially. And so I thought it'd be fun to maybe look at different generations and see what sort of Pokemon we liked, which ones we don't like, maybe talk about what we like in a design of a Pokemon or what we personally feel makes a good design for a Pokemon. So I will pass that back off to you. If you just want to if you've made a list of like ones that you want to talk about and you don't necessarily want to go from generation to generation, that's fine. However you want to approach that works for me.
I mean, you could see with designs in general throughout the generations, where it first starts out as mostly like animal based, while today you have household appliances with names and powers.
Why you hating on Rotom Wash?
There's going to be like a wash and like specifically a washing machine Pokemon next gen.
That's Rotom Wash.
No,
Rotom
no,
Wash
not just the Rotom, but an actual independent washing machine.
Independent.
You'll see a
I
laptop,
mean,
a phone, not just Rotom, like
I, I
morphs.
honestly think Rotom is gonna keep those from becoming a thing. Thankfully, because since it's
Bro,
its
there's
unique thing.
chandeliers, a set of keys, a literal treasure chest, a flamingo.
Hold on. I've played the games. This I know I'm breaking it early. I don't need flamingo slander in this podcast. Flamigo is cool. And by the way, I guess I should have stated this earlier. I guess there will be spoilers. I probably won't go too in depth with the spoilers on Generation 9, but slight spoilers. But anyways, no.
Motorcycle lizards.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I personally, I think there's a lot of animals, right? I yes, there are, starting with Generation 5, because that's when we started getting a lot more, of those out there sort of designs, with your Garbodors, the common ones people like to pick at with your ice cream cones and your trash bags and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, because I know I forgot who's one of the main designers for the newer games, starting with like Sword and Shield, and I think continuing into Scarlet and Violet, they've had some really creative designs, in my opinion. And again, they've been animal based. Like, I'm gonna send you this. I'm gonna send you this Pokédex that shows you all the whatever the models and stuff. Just starting from the top and going down, most of them, or all of them, really, are pretty unique and all animal based. I have yet to see.
All the
Okay, there's a teacup.
starters turned into humanoids in Gen 8.
Yes, that is a deeper problem. I will agree with that.
Okay.
But I mean that started. If you really think about it, Machamp is still the lewdest Pokemon, and we got him in Generation 1. Is literally a dude with only underwear on.
But we only had that one or two humanoidish.
I mean, if we're gonna be fair, you had Hitmonchan, you had Hitmonlee. I mean, you had a chicken nugget with legs who imitated Bruce Lee. I mean, I guess, but obviously as more games come out, they're gonna have more humanoid designs. I do think Cinderace is a bit too far. Like, it's really too far.
Everyone gets a humanoid form.
I mean, Jinx is too far, in my opinion.
I
And that's
mean,
generation.
that was really humanoid, is it?
Yes,
It's just a
yes,
blob
it is.
with a face.
Man, Jinx, Mr. Mime. Come on, Jinx, Mr. Mime. Look at these.
No,
Look at these two.
No. Look at these Gen 8 starters. And these look far more human than any of those. Look, Cinderace has shoes and overalls.
I told you, Cinderace is too far. Cinderace is furry bait, in my opinion. And I'm not here to talk trash about furries, but
I will.
I but I am here to say Cinderace, yes.
Hatterene.
Rillaboom. Well, hold on. Before you go to the others in Generation 8, Rillaboom, no, I do not agree with Rillaboom. I think Rillaboom is just really a gorilla, a cool looking gorilla. In fact, he looks like a DBZ character if you really think about it, with the way his hair is. Inteleon has those
Some
weird
yaoi bait.
Yeah, Inteleon has those weird bedroom eyes, and I'm just, yeah, I can see it, but it's still not as bad as Cinderace, in my opinion. But anyways, you went to Hatterene. Yes, Hatterene is creepy, but I do think, if you think about it in like the concept of a mythological creature, like, obviously, with Arceus, we have an established like past where, obviously the Pokemon and the people were not so integrated as they are with most of the mainline games. I look at Hatterene and I think of like maybe, similar to our own real life, like a creature that sort of resembled something that people of old might have saw like back in the day, and they thought it was like some kind of monster or something, which, I mean, that would be a monster, but you know what I mean, like something creepy. It's uncanny, but it's not humanoid, I would argue, in my opinion. I mean,
why has it got
it's less.
Why has it got those voluptuous curves?
I mean,
riddle me that. Riddle me that.
I can't answer that for you. Okay, I all I know is obviously it's based off of a witch. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's all.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but I mean, come on, I'm scrolling down and I'm looking at them. I mean, at least from Generation 8, there's some pretty cool designs here. I mean, obviously from the fighting game side, and one of my favorite, like, I guess, martial arts styles that I like to see in fiction is Baji Quan. We got freaking Urshifu, which is literally the Baji Quan. That's not its technical name. I think it's the Wushu Pokemon, but I mean, it's literally doing Baji Quan. It's sick. I love Urshifu. Yes, it's humanoid, but it's still sick. Yeah, I'm looking at these other ones. There's maybe an argument for Sneasler, which was
What?
from Arceus. Now
Oh,
that thing, now I forgot what Pokemon I said was fairy bait, but this is actually fairy bait right here. Look at that thing, man.
bruh.
That is somebody's OC, for real, for real.
France. France, France.
Oh, but well, give me some that you like. We've crapped on, the appliances and the humanoids. I mean, I know you said you prefer the animal ones, so give me some of the animal ones that you like from any generation.
Man, I don't really like any of the regular Pokemon. Only the legendaries are particularly interesting.
Really? So what legendaries do you like? So I can sort of get a feel for which ones you like.
I don't think I have seen a bad legendary. Even the pseudo legendaries are pretty good. Well, list of Pokemon legendaries. I mean,
I
I
mean,
like the older designs of you know what, even the red pupil eye socket, black eye socket thing.
yeah.
Palkia and Dialga have those. Not necessarily red
And
pupil, but they have the black eye socket.
let me
Who else? Groudon and Kyogre, they have this similar eye socket. Especially Rayquaza too.
So my man said I like legendaries.
Yeah.
I'm building a team of Ubers. That's it. Get these other ugly ass creatures
No,
out of my
we're just talking about design here.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, like you would like you prefer these designs. I'm curious how you feel about Deoxys since you brought up the Generation 3 legendaries.
Deoxys is cool as hell. Uh,
I I agree, but like I'm just confused because I feel like you wouldn't like Deoxys based off of what you're saying now. I feel like you wouldn't like it,
because
but
even though he is humanoid, it's a unique design based on DNA, which makes sense why he has the humanoid design. But these other random mass animals turning into humans, that's weird.
I mean, I guess the biggest offender, I think what started the chain probably right is probably Gardevoir. Gardevoir is, which honestly in the older games when it was just sprite based, it didn't look. Well, I say she because it's a female only variant. No, is it? No, you can have male Gardevoirs. I think right? Maybe I'm wrong here. Yeah, you can have female ones or male ones, but
Isn't that a whole
I mean
different
obviously.
Pokemon?
Hmm?
Isn't that a different Pokemon?
No,
Gallade?
I think Gallade can only be male, but I think Gardevoir can be both male and female.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, which I think both of those are cool, but just knowing what I know about people now, or just how they look at creatures like this, I can't look at Gardevoir the same. But it started with that Pokemon, and then you got Lopunny, and then the floodgates just sort of opened.
See, that turned a
Um,
rabbit into a human furry.
but I mean, is it really that far removed from Lola Bunny? Is it the Pokemon Company's responsibility to not make people horny for animals? Like that's on the people who feel that way, you know? Yeah.
Sure, sure. How do you feel about
Well,
Vaporeon?
see, I never got that one at all. Like I got the humanoid ones, but I never understood
Oh,
why.
you don't know the meme?
I don't know the meme. I don't.
Oh, dude. Oh
Keep it
no,
away from me.
no, 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 no. You
Don't
have to know it.
no.
The,
I don't
no,
really know.
I'm gonna paste it in the chat right now, and you're gonna read.
Bleed
Or do you want me to
bleed.
read it out? I really don't want to read it out. Yeah, I'm not reading this out.
Post it. Let me see how bad it is. I'll try. Take a stab at it.
Okay. Might want to cut this reading part out.
Gotta cut it out. Hey
Uh,
guys, did you know that in terms of male, human, and female? Okay, yeah, I'm done. I I'm done. I'm not reading that.
No, you don't have
What
to read
the
it out
hell is
loud.
that?
Read the rest of it though. In your head. It's probably shouldn't read it out loud.
This is disturbing. Let's move on.
Did you read
I'm
all of
moving
it?
on. I read all of it. I read all that I want to read too.
No,
So
you
let's
read
just.
did you read the whole thing?
I read the whole thing. I read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful. And whoever made that needs to go to jail. They need time in a cell. I think at this point we can move on from the designs. I'm just gonna throw this out here quickly so we can move on so I can get this taste out of my mouth. I have large bias for generation 1 through 3 designs. I feel like Pokemon designed like with the original Kin Sugimori art style, they really benefited from that. They really are timeless in my opinion. Again, I feel like that is nostalgia because for everyone that hates on Garbodor, I mean, we literally had Muck, which is just a blob of sludge.
But there was
We
only
had,
one of him. We don't need another.
but it's still not unique. I mean, there is no other. I mean,
Other what?
Garbodor is not inherently the same design as Muck, right? I mean, he's kind of the only.
He just has
sludgy
some
Pokemon.
trash on him.
I mean, Persian is just a cat.
Yeah, but there weren't others like it.
But if you think about it, like at least with the cat,
there
right?
aren't
I mean,
regular
in real
cats.
life, we have multiple different types of cats. We have big cats, we have small cats, we have house cats, we have bald cats. Like
Yeah, and at the
least with some
time
of the
when Persian was still in that generation, there wasn't other Pokemon like it, so it was still unique-ish.
sure,
There
but
there aren't
I don't think
normal
that takes
cats.
away. Yeah, I don't think that takes away from the other cat Pokemon. Like now, Incineroar is is kind of interesting, but I do like its pre-evolution Litten. I mean, it's a cool cat design, right? Torracat is actually pretty cool. I like Torracat a lot. Um, that's 7th generation. If you don't remember off the top of your head, God, delete that. Why? I don't want to see that. I'm deleting it off of. Yeah, there you go. Oh, you can speak messages in Discord.
Yes.
Not now. I'll do that later. But yeah, I mean,
Hey guys, did you know?
and I mean, one thing I'll say, one thing I'll spoil about Generation 9, we've gotten a lot of new dogs, and there's been a lot of dog Pokemon since
why?
Arcanine, but they're cool, and we have again. In real life, we have a lot of different dogs, and the dogs are not all the same type. They're different types, they're different designs. They are inspired by the wide variety of breeds. I really like some of the new dogs a lot. I liked Lycanroc back in Generation 7 and Rockruff. Really cool. I mean, I get it, but again, just because it's been done before doesn't mean, it takes away, in my opinion, from the new designs because again, we're multivariate. I mean, every organism on this, there's always, a similar but different version of something, and just makes that other version unique, in my opinion. But getting back to the original point, I do think Ken Sugimori really carried Pokemon designs, and it's not this. I think he still has a hand in it somewhat, but not to the same degree, and his style has changed
36.
dramatically. Like I think a good comparison is the way that Akira Toriyama used to design his characters, whether it was Dr. Slump or all of his previous works or early Dragon Ball Z. He has this new sort of clean design that is just not as fun or
It's easier
expressive
to
in my opinion. Yeah, it's much, and that's the point. And again, that goes back to that earlier point of I just feel like that everything has gotten so big that it's more, everything just feels more mechanical. And that's not a clever pun on your appliance hate, but that's more to say like everything just feels more streamlined to make things easier on production of the various things rather than making fun new things. But we'll get to that a little deeper when I start talking about Scarlet. How are we for time? Because I don't want to do what we did last time. Okay, 41 minutes. That's not too bad. Was there anything else? Well,
if I cut all the silences out, it'd probably be less, a lot less.
Gotcha. So let's. I'm trying to see what would be a good transition because honestly, obviously, your I guess experience with the games is not as much as I thought it was. So you're more anime focused. As far as like stories or characters, do you know a decent amount about those? As far like any generation, probably not the games, but like, are you familiar with sort of the mythos and stuff surrounding some of the generations?
What do you mean by mythos?
Well, just like the general like plot, storylines, that sort of things with the games and the anime, really. Like, because the anime is obviously they're their own things, but they take bits and pieces from those mainline games storylines. So, for instance, obviously, most people love Generation 5 because it had one of their more involved, deeper storylines of a Pokemon game, one of the more mature ones
What was Gen
up to
5's
that point.
plots?
So Gen 5 basically focused on gosh, I forget the evil group. Well, it wasn't even was it Team Plasma? I think it was Team Plasma. But essentially, now this is gonna be a horrible summarization, but I will give it to you the best way that I can.
Gen 5
Essentially,
was black and white though.
yeah,
Oh.
that was Team Plasma, I think. But it wasn't really about the evil organization in that one. It was actually about this ancient civilization that had existed for a long time.
Yeah.
And it centered around in at least the first game. A lot of that story was revolved around In and how he essentially, I think, wanted to eradicate humans or keep humans from interacting with Pokemon because his mind was twisted by the evil head of that ancient civilization. I forget his name. Getis, I maybe it's been a long time, but essentially, it revolves around you talking to him about these heavy philosophical questions that are concerned with why do we train and battle Pokemon? Is it right? That sort of thing. A good versus evil sort of thing. It had a fun storyline where you battle all of the gym trainers like you normally do, but when you get to the end, you don't even really necessarily battle the champion, which was Alder for the first game. You have this JRPG climactic moment where you all of the gym leaders come to back you up as you raid Team Plasma and who is the front for this ancient civilization, and you basically storm to go confront In with the legendary Pokemon of your choice, whichever one, black or white. And it was a more involved story. It felt more like I guess a traditional JRPG with an actual plot to follow, with interesting characters and locales. It was a pretty great game, but at the time, which is interesting, people didn't care for black and white. For a variety of different reasons. Now, it's in retrospect, it's hailed as one of the greatest Pokemon games ever made, but that's how these things work. People berated the early guard, the fanboys, the fanatics are like, man, I don't like this at all, like blah blah blah, and then years later, people actually appreciate effort put in. And then it was one of the first Pokemon games to actually have a direct sequel. With that whole storyline involved with Black 2 and White 2, which I haven't played, so I can't go into those as much. But you got to see the characters grow up. There's all of these fun different things in Black 2 and White 2. It was, but all that to say, do you know any of that regarding any of the mythos and stuff for any
In the
game?
games, no, not really in any of the games. Just the movies.
Gotcha. We didn't talk about we actually that I think that's a good segue because I remember us talking about the movies, and I know you've watched at least up to Black and White. You've watched most of those movies. Do you have a favorite? If you don't have a favorite, tell me which ones you liked the most.
Gotta be Deoxys movie.
Okay, you have told me that. You have told me that. Is it because you really like Deoxys and Rayquaza, or was it the plot, or is it just a variety of different things?
All of it's pretty good. The production quality, Deoxys, Rayquaza, the whole the whole setting of being in a futuristic city.
Yes, now I will say that's probably the thing that I remember most about that movie. Like the location where they're at is pretty cool. It's really cool. You got another one?
I mean, I did like a few. What was it? Probably. I think the black and white movies are okay. Don't remember too much. Pokemon 3. the movie The Crystal Tower with Entei.
Okay, so
That's
I was waiting for you to say the right answer. You finally did. Congratulations. That is probably the best movie in my opinion out of all of them. Um, I can quote. I've watched that movie so much, like just some. You don't understand, man. Like I wore that VHS tape out. It's crazy. Just the whole plot was pretty good, and actually, I've seen people not like it as much, and I'm like, how? It's a really fun, sort of mysterious Pokemon movie. You know, obviously it's a Pokemon movie, so it's not like just so intense. But the whole plot with Molly and losing her mother, and just the fact that Entei becomes the surrogate parent, and then you get to see everybody get whooped. That climactic or the what's the thing before the climax? The apex, I guess. The apex battle with Charizard and Entei, and then the whole bit with I guess Entei basically being like, well, I'm a mirage created by the unknown. It's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. I love that movie to death.
I would,
I always quote what's in. Oh, go ahead.
no, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, gosh, there's the quote that I always say. I say it in my daily life. Oh, because Entei would always say, "If that is what you wish." I don't know if you remember that, but gosh, every time he said it, you know, when Molly would want something, he's like, "If that is what you wish." The final scene, he's like, "Molly." That's my movie. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I'm just fanboying.
And I mean, the other movies are pretty good too, but I've probably watched them too many times. Like Lucario movie, definitely watched way
Too
many
many times. Too many times. Gosh.
What's the other one? Manaphy, the Manaphy movie, definitely too many times.
It's still fun in my opinion, though. I have fond memories watching that one. Lucario wore me out, but Manaphy was pretty fun every now and then when it would come on.
Especially during the Twitch marathon, they would play those two all the time because they didn't have rights to the rest. Like Destiny Deoxys, they didn't have rights to. Man,
Which is crazy.
I would put Destiny Deoxys 1, Entei 2. Really don't know about it. 3. 3 maybe The Rise of Darkrai.
Really interesting. Yeah. I don't have anything to say about anything past Generation 3 because I haven't really watched those. So,
well,
were the Generation 4 movies like sequels of each other?
Generation
I feel like
4?
I remember that.
Or the Gen 4 movies?
Well, like Rise of Darkrai is a Generation 4 movie.
Oh, after Darkrai was Giratina, and wasn't really a big fan of that. That's the movie with Shaman, the weird talking hedgehog. And after that was Arceus movie.
Gotcha. I think there was one before Darkrai because I believe it's like a set of 4 movies. Because the first one should have had like Palkia and Dialga.
Yeah, that's the
I think right.
Darkrai movie.
Is that Darkrai? Interesting. Hold on. Let me.
Yeah, Dialga and Palkia were fighting, and Darkrai was trying to get him to chill.
Yeah, hold on. So yeah, that's what I was asking because I think they were sequels.
Yeah, all 3 are very closely related, or might as well be sequels.
Gotcha.
I think I like that set of movies since because they were actually like related to one another. That the legendaries actually showed up in the later movies and did something. Like in the Arceus movie, you see Dialga like come back to send the protagonist back in time. But that's one thing I don't like about Pokemon is that they keep introducing these legendaries that have never showed up ever before because they didn't exist. All these world-ending catastrophes, you know.
So you mean like with each new Pokemon game, like obviously they introduced new Pokemon that somehow just now existed, and with each new incarnation of the legendary, like I guess they have these, especially when you're talking about, I guess like from Generation 4 when they introduced literally God in the form of Arceus.
Yeah.
Like it just escalated. Yeah.
I can your Arceus is supposed to keep the whole world in check and balance and make sure nothing destroys everything. Oh, you only showed up for one movie? Cool.
I think I think there was one movie. I think some of the movies actually they bring in old legendaries. I know the Hoopa one, which is like X and Y, I believe. Its whole gimmick is opening up portals for legendary Pokemon to sort of appear. I don't know if Arceus was in that, and I haven't really watched that, so I can't say. But yeah, I maybe I'll have to check these out one of these days.
Apparently, in
I
the Genesect movie, the crew is saved by Mewtwo,
yeah,
just
I
out of
actually that's
nowhere.
one of the few past Generation 3 movies that I've watched, and I forgot where I watched it.
I've not seen it.
It it was okay. It was okay. But yeah, a big part of that is obviously Genesect was like the Generation 5 Mewtwo. Do you know Genesect's backstory?
Uh, not really. It's probably a weapon, just based on
I
how he
mean,
looks.
yeah, it's pretty much it's the same thing as Mewtwo, a genetically created Pokemon, just from Generation 5. But with or not Generation 5, Generation I guess it is Generation 5. I guess it was introduced in Generation 5, but then in the sixth generation you got Mega Evolution, because I believe Mewtwo Mega evolves in that movie. If I'm
Oh,
remembering
I remember
correctly.
that. Looked pretty bad.
You don't like his Mega Evolution?
Let me just to make sure what he looks. Yeah, he looks terrible.
He has two different
Yeah,
Mega Evolutions.
the one where he with the tail out of his head. Nah, don't do that.
Oh goodness. Well, give me finish your list before we get too sidetracked. So you said Deoxys movie number 1, Entei movie number 3. I forget or 2. Sorry, I forget what you said your third one was.
Darkrai.
Darkrai. Yes.
The
Can you give me
others,
a 4 or
I
5?
don't really care.
Oh,
Nah,
so
I don't really care about those.
you don't care about. Gotcha. Okay.
Uh,
Well,
I mean, they're not really memorable or anything. I guess the Arceus movie could be a 4.
interesting. You don't like Heroes?
Which one
That's
was
the one with
Heroes?
Latios.
Nah, I barely remember
Man,
that.
I think you need to rewatch. I think that one. Well, I say that and then you don't like it at all, but or you don't like it that much, but that one is a fun one in my opinion. I also like the locale in that one
The
as
only thing
well.
I
It's like
remember is Latias turning into a person. That's weird.
yes, that is a part of that movie, but I really like the locale of that movie. It's got this sort of how do I put it? I can't find the word for it, but it's nice. It's pretty. It's very pretty, and it's also it opens with a well animated scene, in my opinion. Very well animated, like water race that they do. It's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah,
well,
the
if you don't,
production
oh,
quality of
go ahead.
all the movies are pretty good. Made by Studio OLM with assistance from Production IG, Zebek, and one other, I think.
Damn, IG worked on the Pokemon movies. Interesting. I feel like I've heard of OLM before. I feel like we've talked about them before. I just forget what their catalog consists of. Consists of. But
Mm. Yeah, Studio OLM, Production IG, Zebek, and Wit Studio.
gotcha.
Let's see what OLM's got on there. Jeez, they have like 20 different teams. Oh, former teams.
Damn, there were 4 black and white movies. Jeez.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it was 4 black and white movies. Actually, you know what? I remember now because they made like
They
an
swapped.
inverse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they swapped the legendary.
that's funny.
This shouldn't be 4 movies. It's just 2.
No, there's 3, technically 4. Because you got Kirim, the Sword of Justice, and then you got Genesect and the Legend Awaken, and then the Victini with the 2 legendaries is the other 2. Interesting. Well, I'll give my movie list. Entei has to be number 1. I forgot to ask, but have you seen the what's it called? The shorts. Have you seen any of the shorts that would come before the movies?
What were the shorts?
So like especially for the older movies, you would get like a Pikachu short, which was essentially just like little shorts where Ash's current team and his companions Pokemon would be in this random location and they would just have little fun escapades or whatever. They were a big part of the charm of those movies back when I watched them. I don't think they put them on the home releases anymore, but on the VHSs they were what went before you watched the movie.
I
So I would always watch
remember.
those.
Yeah, I remember
Oh,
the Pikachu's rescue thing. Where
with
it was just the Pokemon, right?
yeah, it's just the Pokemon.
There was, I know the Pichu short with Plusle and I forgot the other. No, wait, that's not Pichu. That's Plusle. What's her? What?
Oh wait, are you talking about Plus on Mine?
Yeah, that's a different thing. But I know that this is a Pichu short.
Yes. I haven't seen every one of them, but I have, especially the one that came before Entei. Honestly, it feels like the best one in my opinion. Is the Pichu brothers, where they're like in a almost New York town, and they're
Yeah, that's the one.
it's pretty fun. And then it caps off with like a cake that Ash serves to Pikachu. And it's like, you're my best friend, blah blah blah. But yeah, Pichu Brothers is really fun. The original short that comes after the first movie is really fun as well. I like the first three shorts created. They're really fun. Wait, was there one for Pokemon 2000? I'm trying to remember.
I think that was the
Yes,
rescue. Thing.
Rescue Adventure. Yeah, that is Rescue Adventure. Yes, I used to have a poster for that. I don't know what happened to it, but Rescue Adventure was really fun too.
It looks like they stopped making these in 2015.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. But
And
favorite movies on my end.
There's
Entei, or The Power of the Unknown one. It gets hard after here because honestly, I feel like the first movie and Pokemon 2000 are tied for me. In fact, I will put them both at number 2 because I think they both have their own things that make them my favorite in their opinion. And I really like the production quality on these first 3 movies, by the way. Like, the set pieces for these are beautiful, in my opinion. And then if I had to give a third, it would probably be Heroes. With an honorable mention for the Manaphy movie. I know we've watched it a lot, but I really like the Manaphy movie. I think one reason for that too is just I like the Pokemon Rangers, the spinoff for that. I really love those games, and I love the design of the characters. They just have that Ken Sugimori touch, so I like those a lot. I actually liked sort of, I want to say it's the change in style that they did for the Advanced Generation movies. So Manaphy, Deoxys, what was the Jirachi one? There's the Jirachi one, yeah. I really liked how all of those sort of looked and moved and felt. But
thanks
yeah,
to
I'll put Manaphy.
OLM, Production IG, and Zebek.
They did
Pokemon
a good
probably
job.
has one of the best integration of 3D in their movies.
Yes.
Or in anime in general.
Yeah.
They don't try to mimic animation where it's not needed. Like, they don't try to mimic keyframes and whatever. They use it to like build the world.
Yeah, and it works. It works really well. It's particularly with Manaphy, like the underwater scenes and such. Like, they just look really, really good. Really, really good. Very memorable, in my opinion. But yeah, that is the movies. I guess so we don't drag this out, I might as well go ahead and get to my Scarlet review. But is there anything that you would want to pick my brain about, or anything that you're like you would want to point out before we talk about, I guess, the 9th generation?
Just this would make more sense after we talk about
gotcha.
Scarlet Violet.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna take a cough because I'm gonna prepare myself to talk about this for not too long, but for a bit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out here, in case somebody actually stumbles upon this and listens and doesn't want to be spoiled. Here is a summary in the most succinct way possible. I think the 9th generation of games are some of the best Pokemon games ever made, and yeah, I think that's I don't think that's a bad opinion. I think there's some of creatively the best games made. I think they're a natural evolution of what Pokemon is being built up to. Fantastic designs, great story that sort of actually gives it a renewed, some real characterization is basically what I'm trying to get at. It genuinely feels like an open world Pokemon game. All in all, I think Game Freak did a phenomenal job here in all of those factors, and that's where I'll leave that. So if you don't want to hear anything else, that's what you should take away from this. I will touch on performance issues because there is no excusing that, but best games in the series, hands down. So ask me your question, and it may be a natural transition into what I decide to talk about.
It's not a question. It's about my overall feeling of Pokemon.
Gotcha. Okay, I got you. Um, well, let me I guess start breaking down Scarlet then. So obviously, I think what we need to touch on first is obviously the performance issues, because that's the biggest thing. Not even the performance issues, but the glitches and stuff that have been rampant on social media and stuff like that. Um, Now I can't speak for any one person's experience with the game, but all of those glitches that I've saw, I have not yet encountered one of them. The only horrible parts of the game in that type of capacity is the glitches, or sorry, the performance. The performance is trash. It should run better than it does. It doesn't impair the experience to the point where it's just unplayable, but it is noticeable. There is a lot of clipping. There's a lot of clipping. There's a lot of frame stutters. There's a lot of, the frame rate is pretty low. It can chug sometimes. Pop in is very apparent. But again, these are things, unless you're like very sensitive to those types of things, you really hate those types of things in your video game, they do not take away from the experience that much. One, because it's a JRPG, right? You still have this sense of speed when you're traversing the world. You still have this sense of exploration. There is no like long loading times, even though the game runs like ass. Like, loading times have been significantly reduced in a lot of areas, even when you're like going into new biomes via caves or such like that. Like, it loads instantly, so you don't have to like wait for things to load, even like you would do sometimes in Pokemon Arceus. So honestly, I would say, like, yes, it reeks of being very unoptimized, and you cannot excuse that. But I don't put that on the devs 100%, because from what I've played and what I've experienced, like, it just reeks of they didn't have enough time. It wasn't lack of care. It was just companies, or management above them pushing deadlines because they have all of these different projects. And it really sucks, because I think if you didn't have those performance issues, again, I think people would be lauding this game the same way that I'm probably going to, as one of the best games in this series, one of the best mainline games in the series, up until this point. So I wanted to get the performance out of the way, because yes, that's the obvious thing. So let's talk about, I don't know, is there anything else? I guess we were talking about the designs in this podcast, so let's hit on the designs real quick. I personally, this is my personal opinion, think these are some of the best designed Pokemon since the fourth generation, probably. Um, they are really creatively designed. They are fun. Some are unique. Some build on others. Let me pull up my notes real quick, because I touched on some of this. The typing. So, like, not even just the designs, but like when you start talking about the unique typings that a lot of them got, like, there's some fun new typings to play around with. There's the new abilities and moves make sense with the Pokemon, and not only do they make sense, they're powerful. They're bringing new complexity and new strategy to the games, which is really fun. There's some really fun new abilities on some of these Pokemon that make them really stand out. Older Pokemon that got like new designs, or rather, not new designs, but new like evolutions, or new variants, or new forms and such. Like, a lot of them are just really, really good. This is a slight spoiler, but once you get to a certain point in the game, you'll start to meet Paradox Pokemon. And Paradox Pokemon are essentially, they play on that concept of the past and the future. So if you got Scarlet, you'll deal with Pokemon from the past. If you got Violet, you'll deal with Pokemon from the future. That, Miraidon, Koraidon concept. And I'll be honest, the Paradox Pokemon are freaking amazing, man. Like, the designs are really, really cool. And it's just seeing some of these, Pokemon that you've known for a long, long time, having these new Paradox forms. This is not a spoiler per se, because Pokemon Company put out this particular one in one of the trailers or something. But the new Donphan form, specifically the Scarlet version, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love Donphan anyways, and I just really love what they did with this design. Yes, Girafarig's new, I guess that's an evolution. Yeah, it's an evolution.
It's a
Yes,
giraffe
it's a
with the
little,
hoodie, man.
It's but I think that's an outlier to a lot of these designs. Like if you don't care about spoilers, I mean you can look at them when you get a chance. But like, there's
Lechonk
some really
is a pig.
which one?
Lechonk.
Oh, the chunk. Yeah, man. But like you said with Generation One, we didn't have a pig. We didn't have a pig before. I can't think of a pig off the top of my head. That's our first pig, if you really think about it, which is kind of crazy that we've gone that long. We've gotten like 4 cows, but no pigs. We even gotten chickens, but yeah. Really, really cool.
What about all
Even
those
their oh, go
humanoids?
ahead.
All those humanoid starter Pokemon, except
For eh,
Meowscarada,
I mean,
Quaquaval,
they're
bruh.
way less. They're like Blaziken tier,
What?
and we're
No,
Blaziken
no,
tier,
no, no,
man.
no, 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 no,
They're
no.
Blaziken. In my opinion, they're Blaziken. They're nowhere near as bad as the Generation 8 ones. In my opinion, because nothing will ever touch Cinderace for me. But with the let me look at them again, because yeah, Mascarda and I can see what you're saying,
Don't tell
but
me you haven't seen art on Twitter of that.
I mean I sent you some, so I know. I know. I like them. I mean, they're not as bad. I think again they're more furry bait than humanoid uncanny valley, which is fine. Which is fine. Let them let them have that, right? I mean, at least with the fire type, it is an actual animal. And I know we looked at it earlier, and I was like, I don't like that. But I actually, I've it's grown on me. I like Skeldurge. That's its name. That I think that's how you pronounce that. I like Skeldurge. I like the little alligator. I don't even think I remember another alligator. This might be our first gator, which is pretty cool. I like its gimmick. It has a gimmick move, which is really cool. But
It's
I don't know. The
so
Pokemon are really neat.
ugly, man.
I mean, again, this is subjective, so I don't disagree with you. I thought it was ugly at first too, but it has grown on me. Just seeing it in game and playing with it and using it. But I like them.
Flamigo, bro.
No Flamigo slander in here, man. Flamigo is that Pokemon. I love Flamigo. So I actually thought it was gonna have an evolution. Spoilers, it does not. But
Toucan, that's just a
Flamigo,
toucan. That's from last gen, I
you
think.
you went back to Generation 7. I like Flamigo, man. Flamigo's cool. Flamigo is a fighting type that will F you up.
This Knackley
Uh,
is just literally salt.
wait, wait. You don't like the salt rock Pokemon. What's his name?
It's just,
Garganacl?
yeah, Nacli, Knackley here. And this Knackle stack. And
Hold on.
Garganacl.
You don't like Gargant. I thought now
They're salt
unironically, I think
rocks.
yes, man, and they're cool. I
What
love
is
this
it?
thing.
Varoom? That is a lawnmower.
Now room is a little.
That's a
I don't know, man.
lawnmower, dude.
They're fun. They're fun. I unironically love Garganacle. I think it's so cool. Just seeing it in game, moving around, just little Minecraft piece. They're so cool, in my opinion. When I saw Naxel stack, I was like, yes, this is the Pokemon I like. This is. I am currently rocking him. He is pretty bulky. He's one of those ones with an awesome new ability, which is pretty cool. And a cool special attack. A lot of these new Pokemon have gotten like what's it called, a specialty attack. So like really they're the only ones who have it, and they have these fun new gimmicks to those attacks. It's really fun. It's really cool. I don't know, man. I know you have a different opinion of the designs. I really like the new designs. I think they're all pretty fun. When I've discovered them, it's not the same feeling that I got from Sword and Shield, where I was like, eh. Like I've really liked most of the ones that I've seen.
Why does Totoschool have feet?
Which one is Totoschool? Is that the frog?
It's the tentacruel.
No. That's the Tentacruel. You have to
Yeah.
see that thing move, man.
Ground and ground. I've seen it move.
It's funny, man. I love Totoschool. I'm actually rocking one of those too, and it's it's the boy. I love Totoschool. I actually like its so its evolution Toadscruel. I like its French name more, which is Terracruel, and I think that's much more cool than Toadscruel.
Why
in
is
my
like
opinion.
a quarter of these Pokemon are rehashed previous gen?
I don't know. What list are you looking at?
The Cerebi Gen 9.
Are you looking at the Paldea Pokédex?
What? No, I'm just the Cerebi Link You posted I just replaced the number with 9.
Wait, 'cause I was looking. Hold on.
Tentacruel,
I was
except
look. I was looking
grass.
at the page. I guess he's still building it. I guess because he doesn't have a link to it on that page. But interesting. I mean, I really like a lot of these designs, man. I obviously
Annihilate.
yes. Come on, man. No slander against Primate. Primate needs something new. It's fun.
All the Donphan remakes.
Yeah.
Jigglypuff remake. What is Fluttermane based on? The floating witch Pokemon thing.
Fluttermint. Which one is which
Fluttermane.
Fluttermane. Let me find that one.
It's based on.
Oh, you're talking about Misdrevious.
Yeah.
I haven't actually gotten to the Paradox Pokemon, so I don't remember their name.
There's Magnetite, except with Iron Sand on their magnets.
Where?
It's named Sandy Shocks.
Sandy Shocks. Oh, I want to see it. I'm blind. Sandy Shocks.
2 words.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. The Paradox Pokemon look cool, in my opinion. Actually, the one I'm most jealous about that I won't be able to access from my Scarlet version is Iron Hands, which is just a Paradox version of Hariyama. I really like Hariyama. I think Iron Hands looks really cool. Really cool.
Wiglet, a Wug Trio, bruh. Come on.
So you don't. I take it you don't like none of these.
I mean, a third or a quarter of them are rehashes of existing Pokemon.
I'm scrolling through here, and I don't know if I agree because there's a lot of just yes, the lower half is those paradoxes, but there's quite a bit of
Wiglet, a Wug Trio.
Yeah, but they're not forms. They're actually just new Pokemon. Yes, they're like just new different versions, but they're actually like not like where you had like the Alola variant of like Meowth.
Yeah, they're not variants, but they're a whole new Pokemon, but they're basically the same.
They're not the same though.
They are.
They're not
basically
they're not
the same.
Toedscruel is not Tentacruel, or different.
Yeah, but the design
and it feels different.
Is
the design is the same, but I wouldn't hold that against them.
You can't just turn the tentacles into legs and call it a new Pokemon. Change its type.
You can though.
No, you can't.
You can.
Wiglet. They whitewashed Wiglet and made it a water type.
They whitewashed like. Well, Wiglet is the one I will somewhat agree with you. I think Wiglet is meh, and Wug Trio is just like super meh. But I really like what they've done with some of the ones where they just stole the old design and made it new. I don't know. There's some fun new Pokemon here, and yes, some of them may come off a little lazy, but I think ultimately a lot of them are fun. And I think too, obviously you got to appeal to the older people because I mean, older fans like the older Pokemon. So when they see these new variations of old
they'll
Pokemon,
see what have they done to their boy.
I mean, who's out here like, man, I love me some Diglett, right? I'm surprised they did another type of Diglett when they already did a Alolan Diglett before, which was also ugly, but that's neither here nor there. But they're fun.
That's just a regional variant.
Yeah, that's a regional variant, but
it's not a whole new Pokemon that is just a whitewashed Diglett.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why they did Wiglet and Wug Trio, but that's I agree on there. But I mean, come on, Delibird got a Paradox form. And by the way, these are not like evolutions or anything. They're their own like standalone thing, those Paradox versions. Because again, they're like predecessors essentially. Predecessors or successors or evolutions that exist like in the future and past. So Delibird is actually useful. I actually don't see Dunsparce on here, but Dunsparce, if you remember that Pokemon, it got an evolution. I think they're still building this page. But they're fun. But I've allowed you to hammer onto these new designs for a while. So let's keep it moving. Let's talk about some of the other stuff before I move on from like the Pokemon themselves. The overworld implementation of them is pretty fun. So like for instance, when I was typing up my notes, I was still sort of playing, and in Generation 2, the way you would find like a Heracross or like a Pineco is you would have to headbutt a tree. Now with your legendary, you can dash into a tree. It's kind of clunky, but you can dash into the tree. and knock the Pokemon out. So like again, implementing sort of it, the worlds feel lived in because now since the Pokemon just roam and there's no like patches of grass where you wait for a random encounter, it just feels like those environments or sort of organic, like you're able to explore and do stuff and different things in them. And not just even that, I actually like the one that really got me. I thought I was sneaking up on a pine cone that was already on the ground, and then I turned away for a second, and then I turned back, and it was a Zorua. And if you don't know what Zorua, I think. If you don't know what Zorua is, it's like the copycat Pokemon. It was introduced in Generation 5, where if you put it in the front, it would imitate like one of your Pokemon. I forgot how the mechanic works, but basically it would show itself to be another Pokemon than what it actually was, and then if the opponent hit it, then it would go back to its actual form, which was the Zoroark. And so even in the overworld, they've implemented that because with the Arceus games, with the regional variant, they didn't do that with the that variant, but they did it here, and I thought that was pretty cool. And just other forms of that, like just seeing the Pokemon like naturally like move. Like obviously, if you come across a Torkoal, like it's not really aggressive; it moves slow. But that lawnmower or the motorcycle, I think it's a motorcycle, not a lawnmower. It jets, man, in the most funny way possible. It just like boom, and you can't really escape it if you catch its gaze. The Earthworm Pokemon that's new, it burrows into the ground, and you see its head stick up, and if you come up to it, it'll sort of dig back down, and it may or may not come back up from the earth. So just fun stuff like that. One thing again, the legendaries. I know you said you've never met a bad legendary.
These are probably the worst legendaries.
Oh my goodness.
Except maybe
I agree and don't agree.
Is pretty good. Not Miraidon.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. I don't like Miraidon, but I do like Koraidon. But what they did with these Pokemon in this game, like the legendaries actually have real significant purpose in the story. Like honestly, they existed in these previous games. Now I like the implementation of legendaries in the first generation because again, they were more like they didn't have any plot relevance whatsoever outside of Mewtwo to a small degree. They were just sort of mythical Pokemon that were sort of just out of the way, and if you found them, you could catch them. But like moving forward into next generations, they tried to implement the legendary Pokemon in a more, I guess, plot-driven cinematic fashion. But these actually feel like real parts of the story because you get them at the beginning. And I mean, it's a Pokemon reason for getting the Pokemon. You being the only person to have that legendary, but there's a actual reason for you having the legendary, and you essentially, how in like Arceus, right? Like with each new biome that you would go to, you would unlock a new ability. So potentially, you would get the glide ability, so you could glide with the Braviary, or you could ride the I forgot what that I think it's not a Barracuda. I forget what that Pokemon is. You could surf with that Pokemon. With each check mark, you would get a new way to sort of traverse the locations, and they do the same thing here, but it's with your legendary. So each time you complete the Titan subquest, which I'll go into the different stories in a second, you get a new modification for your legendary, and it's not only is you're just getting these upgrades, like there's all of this story that's related to each upgrade that you get that makes you feel even closer to this legendary and the characters that are related in that little subquest. It's really good. I think it's a fantastic, evolution of what they sort of gave you in Arceus, as far as like your traveling, essential your traveling buddy that allows you to surf and fly and all those different things. And they streamlined all of that stuff too. Which lets me transition to the next part, which is the overworld, minus the Pokemon. It is a little bland. I'll thinking about it, like since it's so big and open world, like I don't know how you feel about open world video games, but obviously, if a game is so big, unless you have like a specific locale that is very memorable, like you're really gonna forget like sort of what it looks like. The locales and Paldea are pretty much just grassland, desert land, cave, iceland. They're fun to traverse, but they're not particularly memorable. And the towns themselves are not necessarily memorable. I mean, they're sort of just there to house, potentially another task or a gym leader and something like that. And I'm not anywhere near done. I've been playing for a while, so I can't speak for all the towns, but for the ones that I've encountered, it's okay. Um it's still much more lively and feels explorable and interactable than what's it called, Sword and Shield. Those were just dead and void, and there was really no reason to even have the towns and stuff because you couldn't even do anything. But at least these sort of have a feel to them, minus the obviously the performance issues where you have like a person walking in the distance going 2 frames per second, just cycling between like literally 2 frames. It's kind of funny sometimes, but traversal feels really good, and progressing through the game is really good. It is not a joke when it is said that you can go wherever you want to at whatever pace and do whatever you want. So the story is set up in you have 3 different stories with, I guess, the honorable mention fourth being your Pokédex, but it's not really essential to the story parts. And those are broken up into obviously the traditional gym battle Elite Four. You have the new team, the villain team story, which is its own thing, and then you have this new, what I was hinting at earlier, which was the Titan form thing. And each one has its own fun story with its own fun like characters that are involved in it. So you sort of have your, like, I wouldn't call them all rivals. You really only have the one rival, but you have your own like 3 partner characters that are involved in the 3 stories. And these are actually really well done stories. Like, I mean, they're not like groundbreaking or anything, but the evil team story, where essentially you're tasked with raiding, like, the evil teams in these games are not like outdoing things like Team Rocket or Team Magma or whatever. Like, they're just in their own self-contained camps. Because I guess I didn't explain this earlier. You're essentially a school student, and so pretty much a lot of the demographic in this game are like from the school, which is the main focal point of the Paldea region. And really with the evil teams, you raid their bases essentially, and you're trying to take over their bases. That's the whole plot with that, and you really get some like good story bits of why they exist, what they're doing. It's really fun. Like, and the characters feel like characters. They're not just one note like, oh, I'm just gonna take over the world, or I'm trying to capture Pokemon, or I'm trying to, become closer to the devil in the case of Generation 4. Like, there's some real good characterization there. The Titans story arc, which is essentially you're finding these different recipes for those god awful sandwiches that I'll talk about. That one has you dealing with like Titan Pokemon that you essentially fight for those ingredients, and then like that goes into upgrading your legendary to have more abilities. But the story there is really sad, but it's also like, again, it really builds on the characters of these characters. Like, you feel like you're in a world with actual characters and not just god awful Pokemon writing where they just say 2 things and then you get a guy that's like, I like shorts because they're comfortable, like, there's some real good dialogue and characters here. And I mean, who doesn't love Goku in their video game? Your rival is just Goku. She just wants to battle all the time. And I know some people are put off by that, but I love Goku, so I love this character. So that's really good. Let's see, what else can I talk about? What else can I praise? Oh yes, the textures on the Pokemon. So while the performance is grass, the textures are just so much improved on the Pokemon. Like, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but they've fixed a lot of the animations. The textures make the Pokemon look like how you would probably imagine them to look. For example, Magnemite has this really glossy, like, metallic look to it. Like, it actually looks like a metal magnet now, which is really, really cool. Some of the other Pokemon, again, they have appropriately textured models. Like, they really look good in the game. Going back to the Pokemon, a lot of things that they did in Arceus, I'm not going to list all of them, but like a lot of the things, which was, again, the open world traversal, like being able to the Let's Go feature, which is like essentially letting your Pokemon go forward and battle in the overworld to gain experience. All of these things that they have like brought over from Arceus, they have improved a lot. One thing that they took away that I think is a real negative is the fact that you can't just throw a Pokeball to catch anymore. Like you can still crouch and sneak behind them for a surprise attack, but you can't like just directly throw a Pokeball to catch Pokemon or attempt to catch Pokemon. And I think that's a huge miss. I think they should have kept that. I'm not sure why they got away or they moved away from that, but that sort of sucks. Another thing that I hate that they did is like with Arceus, you had like actual direct attacks in the animations, but they don't do that anymore. It's the traditional like sort of Pokemon shouts and then an attack effect goes over the Pokemon, and I hate they took that away. I understand that may be for like again lack of time and optimization, but it really is a downgrade from what Arceus, sort of gave, which was this real sort of feeling of like I'm traveling with this Pokemon and they're actually touching and attacking each other. But overall, they've really improved on a lot of things they introduced in Arceus. Raid battles are back and those are pretty fun. You were asking me about this, which was the terratalizing. What did you want to know about? Why were you asking about the Terra mechanic?
Because I don't know what it does.
Okay. So now that I've played the game, I can much better define it. So what Terra does is essentially it allows you to change the type of your Pokemon based on what Terra type they are. So most Pokemon, like if you just catch them randomly in the wild, they're going to have a Terra type of one of their two types that they have. So for instance, Pikachu would have like an electric Terra type, right? But if you do like raid battles or you find special Terra type Pokemon in the overworld, they can have a different sort of Terra type. So for instance, like there's a special Pikachu that's out right now for people who got the game early. And it knows its Terra type is Fly. So like when you initialize your Terra type, that changes the type of the Pokemon completely until it faints. And so that Pikachu would now be a flying type. And so any like say, if you use the ground attack on a Pikachu to super effectively hit it, when it terratalizes into that flying type, it takes on all those properties. The ground type wouldn't hurt it anymore. You would have to use different types of attacks to actually get super effective hits on it, or even hit it at all, depending on what the type is. And then obviously that Pokemon gets increased stab, which is like sharing the same type with an attack that you use for any move that it may know. So that's what that does. It's a different type of Dynamax without making it too broken, but a little more balanced, but still again adding another layer of strategy because there's a defensive and an offensive implementation of it. Just looking at what the competitive scene is doing with it now, you could select a Pokemon to use a defensive Terra typing for, or you can use one to make it more offensive. You can make the decision to try to find one with a different Terra type, or you could just Terra type it with its same type and get increased power for the type that it already has. And that's sort of what it does. Visually, it gives like this glossy, crystallized look over the Pokemon with like a sort of set piece that is emblematic of the type. So for instance, like the fighting type gets like this fist with a downward spiral on it. If you Terra type into a fighting type, fire gets like a Victorian looking candle. Some of them are ugly, some of them are not. I like them. I like it more than I thought I was going to like it. It's still a little weird looking in some cases, but some of them I really like. And yeah, that's what terratalizing. And I think it's a vast improvement over some of the I guess the new mechanics that they've been trying to introduce with each game, or the new gimmick. Like, I think this one will be effective in providing an advantage and potentially a disadvantage for anybody who decides to use it. And also it's not tied to an item or anything like that, so any of your Pokemon can use it, but once you've picked the one Pokemon in a battle to use it, you can't use it any longer. So yeah, that's what Terra typing is. I think it's a very effective new way of implementing new strategy for the game. I think they probably gave it a lot of thought. I think the design could have got a little bit more thought, but the implementation and the way it works well. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I've touched on a lot of the things. If I can be a little negative here, or before I become negative, just a few other random things. The Pokemon are to scale, so like all they are the actual size that they should be based off of their Pokédex entries, which is really good. I like that. That's how it should be. Um, Trainer battles are no longer on site, so if you walk in front of a trainer, they're not gonna battle you. You have to actually walk up to them. And interestingly enough, like you actually have to sort of find them. Like with this game, you're gonna get a lot of experience just battling like wild, catching and battling wild Pokemon because of the traversal and stuff like that. So really the trainer battles are just more of an icing on the cake. Like you see one every so often, and it's oh yeah, I'm gonna battle, rather than just your main way of getting experience. And I think it's refreshing in that sense too. It's it revitalizes the trainer battle in my opinion. It doesn't make it annoying either. TMs are single use again, but you can make them with the materials that you receive from defeating and capturing Pokemon, which I think is a smart move to encourage again more traversal, more spending a lot more time in the game. Oh, and the biggest thing before I get to the negative stuff, Pokemon centers and the marts and the TM creations are all outside. So actually, you very seldomly go into like a building. Like there's very few buildings to go into outside of like the restaurants. Like if you need to go to a Pokemon Center, they're scattered all over the map and they're just out in the open. And so you can just walk up, heal your Pokemon, buy something from the mart, and then you can just leave. Like you don't have to enter a building. You don't have to like find a city. Like they're all out, and then you can just fly back to them. You don't have to learn fly or anything. Like you can just fast travel directly to those centers, which are strategically placed throughout the map. And I think that's a really fantastic new feature. I'm sure that saves some of that loading time, and it also, it streamlines the process. There's a lot of streamlining in a lot of this game. So yeah, so lots of positives. And again, lots of things that they have improved over time. I don't think this game is what I think social media has made it out to be. There's a lot of passion and creativity and actual thought that has gone into this game. And I think the lack of time to optimize has really done it a disservice. But a few bad things, and then we can start wrapping up. Outside of the performance, I really do not like the art style, and I've said this since they were first introduced. Like, again, I think Ken Sugimori's designs are just really nice, and like you said, like I'm sure it makes it easier for And when I say art style, I'm more so referring to like the humans, right? The human characters. They have this generic. I don't even know how to explain it. Like you could probably explain it better just by looking at some of the character designs and stuff. But it just looks so generic. It doesn't look like a Pokemon game. One thing I really liked about Pokemon is just like the style of it. Like when you see the characters, the way they look, the way they, move and animate, and there's just sort of this safeness, like this generic, like my dress up doll look to all of the characters and designs, and I just really do not like it. I don't like the fact that you're stuck to the school design. Like you can't like just buy like whatever clothing options you want. Like there's a ton of customization. This is probably the most you can customize your character model. But like as far as like clothes and such, like you're limited to 4 sets of clothes, literally 4 sets of clothes, which are one for each season. And that's it. Like you can get different color variations. You can take your hat off. You can put gloves on, but that's it. And it's really disappointing. Like I feel like that's a huge step back from sort of even Arceus or Sword and Shield, even a large step back. Picnics. So this is a continuation of a feature from Sword and Shield where you could like make curry in order to give your Pokemon all these different types of effects, make them more friendly to you, give experience, that sort of thing. And I think picnics are more built in for as far as like dex completion and making eggs or more fastly hatching eggs and all these different things. Gosh, is it the most slapdash, just horrible like thing? This is probably my worst offender in this entire game. The picnics are just horrible. Like the depth perception on how to like put your bread or your sandwich meat or whatever onto the sandwich and stuff. Like I did read your post and I completely agree. Like it is awful. And at least with the curry, like it was easy enough. Like you could still fail it, but like the game sort of guided you on how to do it. But like with the sandwich, it's just awful. I remember like I haven't invested time into it yet, but like the first simple sandwich you can make is literally like 3 pieces of ham or bologna or something with like the hoagie bread. So you have to put the damn bologna slices on the bread. But see, there was this one time I just sort of accidentally misclicked, and then I lost my sandwich meat, and then it just fell into the ether. Then there was no sandwich meat, and then I was like, shit. And then I picked up another one, and that one was like half off the sandwich. And then I guess I kind of got the other one on the sandwich, and then like the bread was just hanging off by the tip, and I was like, what is this mini game? This sucks. I hate it. It's a horrible mini game. It sort of doesn't want to make me do picnics, which again, picnics are a little just they're not necessarily extra, but they are extra. If you're just sort of playing through the game, they're extra. But anyways, I think finally, I think I just saw there was something else before I wrap up. One more thing. What was it? Gosh, hold on, my brain. The sandwiches have messed me up. I can't think anymore. What was the last thing? We'll get back to it if I remember. But yeah, my final thoughts on Generation 9, even though I haven't finished yet. Again, I think it is a game that is expansive, it's fun. It is not broken. It is not broken. I see a lot of people, at least from my experience, I can't speak on anybody else's experience. It is somewhat, well, it's not somewhat, it is unoptimized, but it's not broken. You can play through the game and have fun. And while the unoptimizedness is noticeable, it does not take away from the game. And I really hate that people are hyping. I mean, even we were having fun with it, but after playing it, right? Like, I think these outliers do not take away from the core fun game loop that is the game. Like, I feel free to do whatever I want. I feel free to traverse. I'm having fun, like just capturing Pokemon and battling with my team and using the Let's Go feature and finding the new, you know, designs and Pokemon and figuring stuff out and forming my team based off of what I've liked. Like it's actually just genuinely been a good time, and I'm not trying to be an apologist. Again, I think they should have been allowed more time to actually clean up the game. Yes, textures are not great for the non-Pokemon, but I think it's a fun game, and I think if you actually like Pokemon, I think you will genuinely enjoy this game. If you've been following this series like I have for all this time, you will see this as the great next step that the series needed. I think it is a worthy follow up from what Arceus showed us. I think some features that it removed from Arceus need to come back for the next game, but overall, I think how they evolved from what Arceus gave us is great. It is a fantastic new game. So that's really all I have to say about Scarlet. I know that's a long-winded lot of stuff, but yeah. So your question, which I guess it was a general statement of like what do we feel about Pokemon now? Is that what you were gonna ask?
Uh, I don't really know anymore. It's more of a how I view Pokemon now.
Gotcha. Well, go ahead. Tell me how you view it now.
I I frequently think of it compared to the Sonic franchise. Like I want the franchise to be good, but there's always something just holding it back from being just a really good product in whatever they're trying to make. Like Sonic historically has hit a lot of holes and held back a lot a long time ago. Maybe around mid thousands ish, 2010s. And only now they've like starting to like really focus on making new content, maybe around 2017 onwards, 2018, or at least attempting to. While in Pokemon, I'm feeling like it's starting to hit some sort of stagnation, or maybe not starting, maybe it started a few years ago, but it's only like really showing up now. They're just starting to hit those holes in the road or road bumps, really stagnating on what they're trying to push forward. Maybe just in terms of games, I guess. Because the Sun and Moon shell, like they show they're willing to just redesign the whole thing to make a next generation.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, I think the different productions, whether it's the anime, the card game, the mobile stuff, the mainline games, the spin-offs, they all it's kind of weird. There's a different. I feel like the mainline games are suffering the most, which are the main products that introduce the new, that the other stuff builds off of, but those are getting less time than the other products. And I don't know if that's because the other stuff is selling better. I don't think that's the case after seeing how much Scarlet and Violet sold. Being I think the fastest selling Nintendo titles or Switch titles, maybe something like that. It was some astronomical number, but yeah, I sort of agree. And if I had not played Scarlet prior to this podcast, I would have 100% agree. I do to touch on your Sonic point. Um have you tried Sonic Frontiers?
No.
Okay. Personally, I've seen mixed reception to Sonic Frontiers. I think Sonic Frontiers is another Scarlet, but less so. I think it is a fantastic, fun game, like a really, really, really fun Sonic game, one with a lot of creativity and it screams like we want to do right by the Sonic franchise. This is not a Sonic podcast, so I'm not gonna go too hard on that. But I think you did say sort of like that franchise is trying to move in the right direction, and I 100% agree because Sonic Frontiers is like I think a natural evolution of Sonic in the modern age, and it's one of the best games to come out since like I don't know Unleashed or I guess I don't know. And when you're talking about 3D Sonic, not necessarily 2D Sonic, but with Pokemon, I think the stagnation started to occur after Generation 5. I think the 3DS games, and because really with those 3DS games, they brought in Mega Evolution. And then with the Generation 7 games, they brought in Z moves. And then with the Generation 8 games, they brought in Dynamax. Instead of like innovating on the core gameplay loop, they kept the exact same game from 1996, obviously with mechanical changes as far as like stats and typings and all of that, but the exact same game with gimmicks to sort of change the combat. And those gimmicks are fun, but they only really they only really have a lot of meat if you play competitively or if you play with somebody else. I think there's a large demographic of people who just play Pokemon by themselves. They're not necessarily looking to like train or battle competitively or ever touch online. They just want to play within the world and then move on to the next thing or continuously play in the world. And so from that perspective, when you hit like Generation 6, like what's new, what's moving forward, what is it doing new? And I agree it was stagnant. I think Generation 9 changes the bar, and to a lesser extent, well, not to a lesser extent, but I think again Arceus was the foot in the door, and Generation 9 took a lot of the great aspects from that and some of the few great aspects from Sword and Shield and crafted a fantastic new experience for this series. I think the series has fresh legs. I mean, it's still Pokemon at the end of the day, but with this game, you have actual story, actual characters. You have a full world to traverse. That's not just set piece after set piece. There's you're actually on a journey. There's small things like you can actually walk with your Pokemon, something that obviously has been in Arceus and previous games, but it's actually a core feature of the game now. You're no longer locked to HMs because you have pretty much a legendary that functions as that. There's just so many improvements here to the overall just game, and that's not just focused on mechanics of the Pokemon themselves. I can't say that it's stagnant anymore. I think they're actually trying to move forward, but what they need is time. They need time to cook the game. They need time to make a good sandwich simulator, and they just don't have the time. And that's sort of where I'm at with the series after playing it. I'm really, really enjoying. Like I'm enjoying this way more than I enjoyed Sword and Shield. And I put like 150 hours into Sword and Shield, and most of that was raid battles. Because I just really like that concept. Which are brought back here, but regardless, for me, Pokemon is waxed and wane, and I think there's a bright future ahead. But I think the Pokemon Company is going to need to take a step back and realize that they're going to find themselves. I think Sonic's a great analogy. I think they're going to find themselves in a Sonic analogy where they're going to put out a Sonic '06, because while this game is unoptimized, it's good, but Sonic '06 was so unoptimized that it was extremely detrimental to the game, even though there's a good game underneath the unoptimization, or a great game even. And that's gonna happen, and they're gonna drive away such a huge part. I mean, honestly, I say that, but Pokemon just sells. I mean, I bought it, right? But I think it's Pokemon. People are just gonna buy it regardless. But I think here soon, if they continue like just putting out subpar products that are not like emblematic of the fact that this is the biggest gaming franchise in the world, people are going to start drifting away. Like, not just the kids that grew up with it, but like your teens, your kids, they're going to find new games. I think there's a lot of new what's it called? Monster collecting games. Digimon is still strong. Now you talk about a series that did not stick to one thing and has multiple different styles of games, and they're all good, or not as great, but for the most part they're pretty good to fantastic in their own right. Like Digimon is doing it right, and I feel like they're, if I can be honest, even as a large Pokemon fan, I think they're more deserving of the fame and notoriety that Pokemon has, because I feel like those games have grown, they've evolved, they've a lot of that. But there's other monster collecting games, Nexamon, which is like almost pretty much like a mobile game, but it's really fun. There's Tenemon, I don't know. There's stuff out there. And they're coming after that market. It's not just Monster Rancher and Digimon anymore. There's all sorts of different games out there that are gonna try to recapture that magic. And I think Yokai Watch, if it was marketed better, it could have gave Pokemon a run for its money. But of course, Level 5 has had a lot of issues in recent years. But I don't know. I'm excited, with an asterisk. I'm excited for the future of Pokemon. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think these games are a fantastic step forward. Just let them cook. Just I've seen a meme. It's like, hold up, let them cook. Let them cook. Let the masters do their thing. Let them optimize the game. Let them deliver the game in a way that is emblematic of just how powerful and I guess the strong fan base of this game. But that's where I sit with Pokemon. So I mean, I think we've sort of covered what all we have to say about Pokemon. Do you have any final words before we wrap this up?
No, that's it for me.
That's it for you.
We've hit almost, we've hit 2 hours.
We hit 2 hours. Damn. Well, I guess we can go ahead and sign off. This is Mr. Penderton from. I still don't know what the hell you were saying the other time we were talking about. Do it again.
I can't do it again. It's irrelevant now.
Was it relevant then?
Yes.
All right. Well, give me a new one then.
I don't have anything this time.
You don't have anything this time. I'm still not watching the Horse Girl anime.
Well, I'm not either.
Maybe we. Good.
Might watch Simple Gear.
Let's give. Wait, you watch Simple Gear?
No, I might.
Okay. No, might you have to, man. You have to. We gotta talk about Simple Gears.
Fine.
My plan is to watch Mob Psycho.
At
some point. So, I mean, you have to watch Simple Gear.
Did you watch?
We gotta talk about the good shit.
Gotta watch how poorly made Time Collection is. Season 2.
If I find it on a streaming service, maybe here soon, I might actually start investing in streaming services again. So, but yeah. I guess so. To make it easier for us closing, because we always have awkward closings.
Yeah,
what are you interested in talking about?
Oh,
yeah. What are you interested about talking about for our next podcast?
Man, I really don't know. There's nothing upcoming that's in the news in terms of anime content or game content.
Gotcha. Do you wanna, I guess, something in the back catalog we could watch and we could talk about?
When was the last time we did that?
I don't know. You're the one with the receipts, man. What was it? August? September?
July. That's when we recorded. We didn't even when we watched it, it was probably way before that. It was now and then, here and
Probably.
there.
Yep. So I mean, I'm up for watching something newer. If you want to watch, if you want me to go ahead and watch Arpeggio, I can watch Arpeggio. We can talk about Arpeggio. I was trying to set like a next time on Dragon Ball Z. We'll talk about whatever. But if we don't have a definite thing, definitely the next podcast will be anime related. We'll figure it out. We don't know yet. I'm looking behind me. Maybe I'll watch you make you watch Shimonetta, and we can talk about that.
Oof.
You know exactly what it is. Good, good. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, we'll talk about Shimonetta and why dirty jokes are the best jokes, and why that Vaporeon joke was horrible. So yeah, with that said, take care.